ways to promote the growth of Tigres in English through analysis, discussions, interviews, and more. Welcome to the La U Times Podcast.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the La U Times Podcast. Pretty stoked about recording with the crew tonight. Got lots to cover. Lots of topics of discussion for Tigres, men's and femenil. So let's get right into it. Welcome Lou from Austin, Texas, Tigres English. How we doing tonight?
How you doing, Arnoldo? Great to be here, man. Lots to cover tonight, man. So I'll let you get on with the intros.
Absolutely. Good to have you, Lou. Alfred in the H with me. How you doing, my friend? On that mute level. It's okay.
Already starting wrong.
How you doing?
Just a little bit under the weather, but, I didn't want to miss 2 streams in a row, so I'm here.
Good to have you. Hope you get to survive through the podcast, and hopefully you don't rant too much. And Double O Nation, all the way in Arlington. How you doing?
Doing good. Pleasure to be back with you guys. Of course, it's always a good day.
And sorry about that, guys. Dennis is just extra excited today. So the producing music got on again. So lastly, Dennis, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, my bad, guys. That was not great, but here we are. I'm good. I was just telling Edgar, I just refereed a soccer game in our little league at church with 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, and it felt like a basketball game because it was one of those like back and forth, just launching balls to one side of the field, trying to catch the defense from behind and stuff like that. So I'm pretty shot. My legs are pretty shot. But I did reward myself with our unofficial sponsor for tonight, which is Andy's Frozen Custard. What wasn't here was a pumpkin pie concrete until I destroyed it. So here we are.
Wow.
Good shot, Dennis.
You always have the best sweets, my friend. Always got good sweets going on at your house. My unofficial sponsor, I discovered these in my last visit to Mexico. These Ciel, but Jamaica flavor. They're awesome.
I didn't even know Ciel made anything besides regular water.
Oh, yeah, they do. Those are
I didn't know, but they're fantastic. I brought a couple cases back. So, guys, let's get into it. Double O Nation, lead us off, my friend.
Alrighty, we're going to start with Las Amazonas since they didn't get enough love on the last pod. Here we go. A missed opportunity, Chivas versus Tigres Femenil. Sunday night, the Amazonas traveled to Guadalajara to face off against Chivas Femenil in a match that should have been a guaranteed 3 points. Things went wrong before the whistle even blew. A questionable offense led the starting 11, and this would complicate attacking play throughout the 90. The first 45 saw an intentional squad that didn't play poorly, but as has become the norm, dependent on individual performances to generate good football. The second half saw goals from both sides, but questionable substitutions could very well have been the determining factor in the 1-1 draw. Ovai's 75-minute goal was not enough to allow the Amazonas to have their cake and eat it too. Chivas scored at the 89th minute, and the match ended in a draw.
Couple things there that I want to highlight from your awesome intro, Edgar, is dependent on individual performance to generate good football. And then close to the end, the Ovai's 75th minute goal was not enough. It seems like that's a common factor in like all the Tigres femenil games. Whether Ovaya doesn't work her magic that we're used to, whether it's doing some type of like great goals or setting up her teammates, or somebody else stepping in on another occasions like Tembi, who's had a great season so far. Cristina Ferral on the offensive side this year, even though being a defender. So I want to start there. We'll start off with your thoughts and what you thought about the actual tie versus a Chivas team who is not in the best form. It's probably, I tweeted about it while we were watching the game, is probably the worst team that we have seen Chivas Femenil field since the founding of the league. It doesn't have as much talent as it used to. You can tell some of the players are off. They had some off the field issues with some of their players who played in this game, and one of them scored a goal to tie Carolina Jaramillo, who also played for Tigres Femenil in the past. seems to always happen, right? Ex-player, whether it's femenil or men's, always scores on us. And, just taking a beating in their last games. America scored 7 on them, if I'm not mistaken. They lost to Pumas and Mazatlan for the first time, or if not, Pumas Femenil, maybe at their house lost for the first time, somewhere along those lines. But it just seems like Chivas ultimately is not the team that we were expecting to see in what we saw, a competitive team against us. And ultimately, a bad result, even though it was a tie and we still maintained the unbeaten streak in the league. And defensively, only 1 goal given up, but ultimately just bad form. So anybody want to take the lead to start us off there? Because I know everybody has something to say out loud, either towards the team itself or to our coaching staff.
Yeah, I'll start. Chivas was coming in with a lot of internal turmoil. From what I was reading, there was a lot of stuff going on in the locker room, so they're just falling apart. Winless in their last 4 before our game, 3 losses and a tie. One of those being terrible, like you mentioned, against America 7-0 in a Clásico, which they normally get up for. So you're facing a really bad team that's not a bad team, but a team that was in a major slump coming in, and you were only able to generate 5 shots on goal the entire match, 11 shots for total for the entire match. So not very good. It kind of just goes to show that we're completely lost on the attack. We have no idea what we're doing. We're too dependent on Thembi. We're too dependent on Novaye to do something to be able to score. And then we continue to not throw our best 11 out there. I'm not sure why Mayor continues to start when she hasn't been in great form for a long time now. And I think a lot of fans are asking that same question: why does Mayor continue to start and then not get subbed out later on in the game after you've seen what she's putting out? So there's just a lot of concerns. I think the fan base in general is very disappointed in Milagros Martinez, and I think a lot of us are. I think we've been saying it for a while. We need to move on, but it's likely we're not going to see any changes until the end of the season. But I mean, potentially the season could end early for us the way we're playing. We've scored before coming into the game. We had scored 8 goals in 7.5 games against really poor competition. So it's a really big concern that even against teams that are not very good, your Leons, your Mazatlans, those sort of teams, you can only put up 1 goal per game. I think that's some major red flags right there.
Why do we think that Mayor is untouchable, Edgar? Like, what do you make of that? I mean, like Lou has said, like everything points to she should not be getting the minutes. What do you think is the persistence that Mila may have, whether it's on the field issue or off the field, that contributes to her not getting off?
I think it just comes down to more of a question or like an aspect of favoritism that's probably off the pitch in the locker room. She's probably is one of Mila Martinez's more trusted athletes when it comes to managing the team. But if you're not delivering on the field, that doesn't really matter. I think that you can still be a leader and you can still contribute from the sidelines, where if you're not in your best form, that's where you need to be.
What do you think, Dennis?
She probably figured out some under the table deal with Mila at this point. I mean, that's what it feels like. Because genuinely, like, I don't know what she provides anymore. Like, she slows the game down tremendously, doesn't really help with anything. It would be one thing if she was like a defender, because like you could kind of get away with it a little bit more there to some degree. But the fact that she's so up front and like in that number 10 role a lot of the time, it's like what are we doing, right? Like, and she's not at the pace anymore to play 90 minutes. Full stop. Like, she's perfectly suited for the bench. But if you have her play the whole 90, it's like you're playing with 10. I'm sorry.
And I'm going to throw this over to you, Alfred. Something that I observed and have observed now for a while. And, I think we touched upon it briefly, and at times we sort of one podcast episode we kind of sort of got into it when she was gone due to the Olympics. Jennifer Hermoso, because of her play style and how she gets involved in the buildup of play, and she tends right to play back out of her central attack and mid position. And Stephanie Mayor does the same, just like Dennis just mentioned. We don't have a attacking threat and an attacking like sort of a point of focus. Reference, as well as, I think now that the observation that I've made is that them two together now, if we thought Jenny Hermoso slowed the game down for us, now with Mayor's form, and maybe not much her form, because she's still getting some goals and assists, whether those goals either come against like lower opponents per se. She still gets on the stats, right? But her play overall to the contribution of the team itself to play better football, and what we've seen in the past for Tigres Femenil and where we project to continue to go, it just doesn't seem that it's going there. What do you think about them playing together, and how moving forward, if that's a threat to what we may do during the rest of the season?
It's just confusing, man. We've been talking about it since last season. I think also what stands out is that we thought that it was because she did not have the competition, somebody, to compete for her spot, in the starting 11, or you had Aligol, who, was brought back, and since she came back, has not been in great form. It's also, not contributed much. So it was kind of justifiable to still have her there. But now we brought Ana Diaz, who, from what we've seen, when she's placed, not what we saw yesterday because she was placed out of position, but when she's placed in a central attacking position, she's great. Or as far as I can see, I think she provides a lot more than what Stephanie Mayor does. So, it's just baffling. Why does Mila continue to, to keep her in there? Mayor, like you're mentioning, Mayor, she tracks back way too much. I think that may be what helps her, that she pads her stats because she doesn't necessarily lose the ball that often, because she's always tracking back, getting the ball, at a lower part of the field, and then, just passing it sideways, passing it back. She's good at that. But how does that contribute offensively? That doesn't help us when, she's tracking back, Jenny Hermoso's tracking back, and then you have, all these other, players that are in the midfield, kind of all clumped together, spreading the play to the sides with Demby and with Ovalle, but then you have nobody, waiting for a ball in the box. So it's just we've all said it. It's something that I just don't think that Mila is working in favor of what's best for our team. And we maybe have been slow at saying it, but it's time to get out those hashtag Fuera Mila memes and cartels and kind of get in their face, because it doesn't seem like anything's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, and it seems that, what sums it all up is frustration on the fan side, and then also the players. I mean, many things recently, in this specific game against Chivas, the Ovalle yellow was out of frustration. The Anika Rodriguez foul, which in my opinion probably should have been a red card. If it goes to VAR, I mean, she went too aggressive on the tackle. And whether it's accidental or not, like she got her pretty good. So VAR could have probably been a decision that she could have gotten the red card. But I think it's out of frustration, right? I think that the teammates on the field see that they're struggling, and they know they have the talent, and they see each other every day, and they have this great camaraderie where they're great friends, and they have, this great team building aspect off the field that on the field is just not happening. They're doing it on individualities, like Edgar highlighted in his introduction to this segment, is that there's just so much frustration going on. And then you add on the management aspect of the subs and the type of subs that are happening. You start Alison Gonzalez at the right wing position in the previous game. You bring in Ana Diaz as a right winger, doesn't touch a ball for nearly 20-25 minutes once she's subbed on. And then you bring in a player like Nayeli Rangel, who maybe she's not, the most technical or the most contributor aspect of a build up in soccer or football, but she still contributes with effort, and she has done great last minute goals in so many games. And then you bring in another winger who you brought in from Chivas, and she got booed as soon as she went in because she did great stuff there. And so it's a disrespect to these players who are supposed to be, a contributor, because you have technically the best players, because you're the best club in Mexican women soccer in Mexico. Sorry, I repeated that, but you guys get where I'm getting at. So ultimately, I feel, Lou, that there's just it's just getting too much out of hand. There's just a lot of external factors besides the just what's happening on the field that's contributing to these players bad form.
If we're frustrated, they're definitely frustrated. There's no doubt about that, because they know what their potential is, they know what their ceiling is, and they review film after games, and they know that they're not playing up to their ceiling, they're not playing up to their potential. And I think a lot of times it's frustrating when the manager isn't contributing to your success. And I'm sure there's bench players that have been riding that bench for too long, know that they can make the team better, they can contribute a lot more, but the manager's not allowing it. So there's no doubt that thought crosses a lot of these players' head. It goes through their heads, and it leads to frustration. And then we see the poor play on the pitch, and that creates even more frustration, and it becomes this circus, this vicious cycle. And you see it in the shape of the team, the space between the lines, the space between the players. That's the managerial issue. When there isn't any connections, any chemistry between players, and I'm talking multiple players, right? I'm talking about positional awareness, being in the right spots. When that doesn't exist, that all goes to the manager. That is the manager's fault, because that's the sort of stuff you work during the week, day in and day out through months. And Mila has had this squad for a long time. I mean, there is no excuse. She can't say, "Oh, I just took over and I'm implementing a new style." There's none of that. I mean, she's had this squad for a long time, so there's no excuse as to why we shouldn't have a set style of play, why there is no chemistry, why we have no clue in the final third what we're doing, why we rely on too many individual performances. That all falls on Mila. And then tactically, we just have no discipline. It just bugs me like crazy that her physical guy is always in her ear. You're the manager. Why is this guy in your ear all the time? I just don't understand it, man. It just feels like she has no clue what she's doing out there.
So hashtag fuera Mila.
Oh, for sure. Somebody in the comments, when you read the comments, keeps saying she's a PE coach, and they've said it enough times in the comments that it's starting to get to me, man. I feel like maybe she is a PE coach. Maybe they're out there doing like push-ups and like running drills through cones and stuff, like we're back in the late 70s or something. It's weird, man.
Let's rewind a bit to when Carmelina Moscato left and she was brought on. What were her true accolades that stood out? She took Juarez to their first playoff appearance, or I'm not even sure if they actually made the playoff. They were playing good football. Some of the players raised their form, but she didn't win anything, and obviously, she probably didn't have the overall talent to do so. But I can't think, obviously, fast forward to the position we're in now. She got a championship the first 6 months that she was here, but it's not very tough when your team is full, stacked of great talent. And it shows why we've won so many championships in this recent league's history. So what do you think was the intention of this hire? And was there not enough scouting? I don't want to necessarily give so much time here about America Femenil, because I mentioned them also last pod. But even though they've lost so many finals, they play good soccer, and their coach is on point. You can tell the players have the intention of what the coach is trying to do on the field, and we haven't seen that in a long time. We had flashes of Moscato show some good signs of soccer here and there, And I think that, they had a really good relationship with the coach, and it was a new method of something new, right? Like a new shiny toy that the players bought on. But again, the camaraderie that these players had, and some of these players have been here for a while, like it all adds to that, formula of success that it makes it easier to win a championship. So I don't know. I any like back, information at the time that could have like said, hey, this is a really good hire, or this is going to take us to the next step, because it hasn't happened.
I think we all fell for the hype, man, to be honest with you, because I was kind of on that hype train too for a little while. But now that I go back and kind of look over some of the highlights of when she took over the team, it was just kind of like the perfect storm, because she had a team that could sit back, defend, and she could play very, I don't want to say counter attacking style, but very direct, because she had Mia Swaswa, and she had the players to be able to just play direct, play fast, and be able to score. And so I think her style of play sort of took a lot of people by surprise, but it doesn't work with our players. You're not going to sit back and have space to be able to just counter with this squad, because it's completely flipped, right? Everybody's sitting in a low block, and now your job is to break that low block. But if you're a one-trick pony like Mila is, where she's a direct kind of, where you're expecting space behind the back line, it doesn't exist. So there goes your style. There goes what you wanted to implement. And so
But even then,
it just doesn't work.
Even then, I mean, we faced the NWSL teams and have been forced to kind of play on a counter, and
it hasn't
we
worked.
haven't seen anything good out of that either. So
yeah.
So what's the solution, guys? I mean, are we just going to struggle the rest of the season? Well, she's not going to get fired. She's not going to get fired. And if the team,
at the end of the season, you don't think if they get bounced early, quarters or semis?
If they get bounced early, and so that's a big if still, because of the talent. I'm not saying that it may not happen. I think realistically, this is the season where I have no trust in the team to get to a final. I think that Pachuca's playing good. I think that America's playing excellent. Rayadas has had, a sort of like a fallback with their squad, but they still have talent, and they have, if anything, a little bit more of identity with how they try to play football, even though it's not necessarily good to the eyes, or at least what I would say collectively that we all like to see from our team. So I just don't see them, getting out of this funk, because I don't think it's necessarily like individual player form like we've talked about. It's obviously decision-making of players starting, playing players out of position, wrong management and timing of substitutions, favoritism with some of the players. She's talked about rotations and that she doesn't have enough time to, as we get into this next couple of games that we're going to talk about here soon. So it just doesn't seem like there's a true solution besides we're just going to have to write it out and see what happens.
That's it.
The bad form cannot be coming at a worse time too. I know we're about to talk about those two games, and this is maybe a perfect segue. But you have a massive Champions League game on Thursday night that you have to win in order to really gain control of the group. And then you have a game against America on Sunday, right? At home. Are we at home for that? That's your test, right? To see if you're even going to be worth anything in the league the rest of the season, right? So this is a make or break week, I feel like. I mean, I know we just said she probably won't get fired till the end of the season, but I don't know. You put up a bad showing this week, and I think the pitchforks are going to be coming out hot if they aren't already.
But we won't have a bad showing. I mean, in the end, our talent is too good.
Yeah.
Our players are just, extremely, extremely compromised and committed to the team that, they won't, just
fold. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
And ultimately, the one favorable thing is our defense, right? Like, we've given up the least amount of goals. And even though America Femenil is going to come into that Sunday, like looking for, making a good statement game and an impression with the new squad that they formed and all the signings that we've been seeing by their fans and the media, specifically the media outlet that we were on or part of when we were being broadcaster hyping this team up. I'm surprised they're not calling them like las Super Galacticas, or what were they called? Agui Galacticas, like they were a couple of seasons ago when they had, less of a better team than they do now. I think now they have a better team that they did when they were calling themselves that or claiming themselves to be that. And so, I think that that's what, helps us is that our defense has been great. And I think that, it's going to be a tough match for them, but I do see them looking to make an impression, more for themselves to see what they're made of. But I do think offensively, like we're going to struggle.
Yeah.
So what do we, how do we go about these rotations, Edgar? What do you think about this Alajuelense game and Champions that we have on Thursday? How do you think she's going to rotate? Who do you think that, you expect to see or probably will see in this rotation that she's probably going to do?
Based on my observations with Mina Martinez, I think the first rotation is she might bring back Itzel in the goalkeeper position. And we're going to see a lot of other random changes that won't necessarily make sense. I think she's going to bench some critical players. Mayor might still find her way in the starting lineup. That's almost a guarantee, unfortunately. But I could see her maybe resting Mari Carmen Reyes this round.
Yeah.
With some other random player.
I would say for what you added, and maybe you guys also have a contribution here, Itzel, like you said, definitely benching Mari Carmen, and I think that's a good game to play Chat Hernandez or Nayeli Rangel in there. Jesus, Lou. And then, she's going to play Allison to get some minutes there. Maybe even like Montoya at left back randomly just because it makes sense for her.
Just don't put Aligol out on the wing. Don't put Aligol out on the wing. Why would we do that again?
Dude, I think it's going to happen. I think she's going to play Allison on the wing. She's going to play Ana Diaz and Stephanie Mayor behind her. And then she's going to play Montoya out wide. And then she's going to get into the middle where I think I see either Chata or Nayeli Rangel coming in for Mari Carmen with Alexia Delgado in there. And then
she's going to have probably Pollo Cruz in there somewhere too.
Right, Pollo. Maybe even Pollo for Mayor. Maybe that's the way to or even, that actually makes more sense, Alfred. She doesn't play Montoya out left, and she plays Belen Cruz with Stephanie Mayor, Allison, and then Ana Diaz up top. Either a combination of La Chata and Nayeli or La Chata and Alexia in the middle, and then a back line of Jimena Lopez, Nati Villarreal, and then either Greta's probably not going to play because they're going to save her for Sunday because she came out hurt from this past game. So maybe even Ferral in there. I don't know.
Is Natalia calling back?
She's hurt.
She's hurt. We'll see,
questions, uncertainties with the Femenil as we get into this Champions League game, which is this coming Thursday. Has Alajuelense won? I don't think they beat America. I think America beat them. I'm sorry, Rayadas beat them.
Yeah.
They won their first game, didn't they?
They did. I think they beat
Frasers.
Fraser.
Yeah.
And they lost to Rayadas, I presume.
If we win, that puts us at 9 points. That regardless of what happens with Gotham, we would be first going into the game against them next week or 2 weeks from now, whenever we play.
Which
them.
a tie would favor us, right?
Oh,
correct.
Huge. Yeah.
What are the standings looking like at the moment?
We're first with 6 points. Gotham and Rayadas both have 4, but Gotham has, I think, a goal difference advantage. Alajuelense is in 4th place with 3 points, and Fraser Swift hasn't sniffed a point, and their goal difference is minus 16. So,
Jesus.
Okay, but Gotham plays Frasers, right? So they're going to score the crap out of them. They're probably going to win 10-12-0 or something like that. So if we tie this game versus Alajuelense, we potentially put ourselves in risk of, maybe Rayadas, catching up to us.
Rayadas have already played 3 games.
We gotta beat Alajuelense. We have to win, even if it's by low margin.
Yeah.
Because then that gives us the opportunity to tie versus Gotham and win the group still.
Right.
I think
And-
if we win on Thursday, I think we qualify because
That would make
Rayados have
sense.
already played 3 games. And
no,
so
but
they only have one
Rayados
more.
will still play Alajuelense.
No,
Right,
they
but
already
they only
played
have
them.
one more game. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
did
They have 4 points from 3 games, and
Right.
everybody else has only played 2 except for Frazier's. So us putting in 9 points after 3 games, they can't jump us, and
Yeah.
neither would Alajuelense. So I think we would qualify if we win. I'm pretty
Yeah, the
sure.
risk is if we tie.
Yes, we cannot tie.
Gotta win. So maybe that's why her statement at the press conference after the game was like, we don't have a lot of days and we got to rotate. Maybe that's why she sounded like a little flustered by it, because she knows that it's a must-win game and her team's not looking great on the field. Then obviously we have the America game. Any quick predictions before I move into this America game for some predictions there? What do we think?
2-0.
2-0, okay. A little tough, a little nitty gritty there.
Yeah, we're away, right? That's an away game, or are we home?
It is home.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, 2-0. 2-0 seems right.
Edgar?
I'm with you guys. 2-0.
Lou?
1-0. Barely. We'll be mad.
Yeah, I'm gonna add to that cause with Lou. I'm going 1-0 as well. I think the frustration is still around, even though we take the victory. And then obviously we receive America on Sunday, which big game. They got, like I mentioned, a lot of big time players. More specifically, the forward that they just signed, Brazilian star U23 or U20, can't recall. And she scored her
goal. Sunday evening game, right?
Yep, Sunday evening game. And she scored her first goal this past week, or this past couple of days. She's got her first goal in there, which was yesterday, victory that they had against Xolas. Sarah Lubert's playing really well. Obviously, they got Scarlett Camberos. They have Nancy Antonio, who's big player on their squad. I've heard lots of great things from their fans.
We let go of Antonio to go get
Antonio and Mercado, man, our biggest losses in the last couple of years.
Actually, okay, let's end this on this thing that I'm going to bring up, and then we'll move on to the men's. What do you guys think? I mean, from my pure observation, I'm not saying she's bad. I just don't think it's what we need. And you got to bench one of them in order to, in this scenario that I'm about to present. Obviously, Nancy Antonio is having a great season. She didn't get along well with Mila. She was up for a new contract. They obviously didn't renew her. They were trying to go young or younger. And so she was let go. Our midfield consists of Alexia Delgado and Mari Carmen Reyes, who I would consider, Mari Carmen Reyes, obviously more of a fan favorite, but Alexia Delgado is still in good grace amongst most fans from what I understand. But in my opinion, even though I think she's good, I just don't think that's the tandem that we need. I think that even though they're not similar in their play, neither of them is providing really the number 5 position coming out of the back cleaning. Alexia does it more often than Mari Carmen Reyes, but it's still, she has a technical ability that to me, she's more of a box-to-box midfielder, just like Mari Carmen is, even though Mari Carmen has more offensive punch. So if we would have kept Nancy Antonio and, great form that she's currently have, who do you start alongside Nancy Antonio in this scenario? Mari Carmen Reyes or Alexia Delgado?
Mari Carmen Reyes. Because Antonio acts like more of a defensive mid, and then can also act like a sweeper if you were to drop her down into the. I think she's very versatile that way. And then Mari Carmen can be your box to box type of, kind of like your Gorriarán type of player.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. We're missing that Carioca type 5 player in the feminine. It's like we're playing with 2 Gorriaráns.
What do you guys think, Dennis? I saw Edgar, you shook your head. So all you guys agree,
I
which
agree. Yeah.
I expected that. And so do you guys think that's also a big problem that we've had all season? I know you just mentioned it, Alfred, that we don't have the, like our Carioca on the men's side. To me, that's also the biggest thing where besides the coaching aspect, that's where we've lacked, to establish really good ball because there's no balance or there's no clear, who's setting the tempo out of the back, coming, send, into the offensive transition. So I feel like, even though Alexia Delgado is good, is a national team player, she's young, she's got great technical ability. She still has lots of things to improve. And I think that's why I knew the answer was going to be Mari Carmen Reyes, which she's more polished, provides more offensive punch. She's aggressive, she's a leader on the field. And so what did we do there with the scouting aspect?
I think we failed in that sense in the offseason because they failed to recognize that what we needed to do was get stronger, faster, more physical in that slot, and we didn't. La Chata Rodriguez doesn't bring any of that.
You sounded like
to the
Deion
squad.
Sanders there, my friend. Strong, fast, physical. It's like what he always says to his kids at Colorado.
To me, what I would have liked to have seen, but I don't think Mila's ever going to do it, is develop Natalia Colin into that spot at the 5.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
would
would
too.
love, because she's massive for one, so she's got the ability to be very physical. A defender at heart, but also lots of speed. So I think like she's got the potential to develop there, but I just don't trust Mila to develop anybody anywhere really. I mean, I don't feel like if you look at player by player, line by line, there isn't anybody that you can say Mila's made better. Like who's improved tactically? I just don't see anybody that
I don't know
has
if
gotten
it's
better.
I don't know if it's due to Mila per se, but I would say 2 players specifically. One being Mari Carmen, because she got placed in a position where she scored lots of goals, playing the 9 in the attacking mid position. And I think that Lou and I, when she first arrived, that was the one thing that you and I quickly agreed on and observed, is that when she was being played out wide, when Carmelina got here, she was not contributing at all, and it's once we saw her closer to the middle of the field. So I don't know, like I said, if it's due entirely to Milan, but I think that because of where Milan placed her, she got better and she got more confidence to develop where she's at now. And secondly, I would add Cristina Ferral, but again, not necessarily due to Mila Martinez. But I think Cristina Ferral had turned into an even better player than she was before, and that's why she was awarded the captaincy on the squad.
With Reyes, I'd have to check the stats, bro, but I don't think the stats agree with what you're saying. With Ferral, I don't believe that one. Where I think there might be an improvement was at the goalkeeping spot.
That's true. But I also think that that's due more so to the player. I don't think necessarily to the coaching.
Yeah.
I think she came back to Mexico and she wasn't playing very much, and I think she was at PSV with Anika, and she wasn't playing very much, but she did get better. But I think those 2 players got better than what they were, and maybe that's because they were already really good. But to me, they stand out more, to where I had Greta and Ferral, on the same stratosphere, and I think Ferral left Greta behind about a season ago. Edgar, I can't. I don't even want to read that comment out loud.
I just know David Molina would agree with him.
Let them go. Let them go. When they don't want to be here, let them go.
Yeah. Farewell.
She didn't want to be here. Just like,
Just like all the other ones.
It happens. And she's not. And I know, Edgar, I know you love Ana Cesa, so I know you were not going to bench Ana Cesa for Hanna or Anika Rodriguez. Come on, bro. She's not even getting playing time on América Femenil. She screwed up.
Who's she behind over there? Moon?
Yeah.
Luna?
Who's a Tigres player?
Yeah.
And a Tigres fan. Things happen.
A precious member of the Colgate squad.
The Colgate squad. Yeah, she was good for the vibes too. To me, she was more real than Hannah. What's her name? Last name Gutierrez. She's just more relatable. One's more of a social media star. The other one's, even though I liked her play, I think she got really, she developed quite well at Tigres and she improved a lot. But I think Karen Luna ultimately surpassed her and not with less hype.
Yeah.
We love you, Edgar, though. Thanks for always contributing to our pod episodes that we record live. So don't take it personal, my friend. We're moving on?
I think
Yes,
so.
sir.
To more frustrating matters.
The main event of tonight's podcast.
Let her rip, Edgar.
All right. El duelo de los felinos, Tigres versus León. Another game, another mystery. Friday night, Tigres hosted 17th place Club León at the Volcán, which should have been an easier match for Paunos Incomparables, turned into the most dramatic and suspenseful match of the season so far. León came for business and opened up the scoreboard in the 21st minute with a goal from Alfonso Alvarado, and just minutes later, nearly made the score 2-0 had it not been for a VAR review. Guignac showed up for Tigres in the 35th minute after an assist from Antuna and allowed him to make magic. In the second half, León was up again after a goal from Barreiro in the 60th minute. More controversy sparked after León again scored but couldn't expand their lead after a VAR review correctly called their goal as offsides. In the 90th minute, Bruneta made an appearance and scored the equalizer, assisted by Diego Lainez. The final score was a 2-2 draw.
I guess I should have covered my ears then to hear that statement instead of covering my eyes.
The
Linus
game where we lost
assisted?
brain cells. The game where we
Linus
lost brain cells.
assisted. God, he finally assisted. El Niño Maravilla is back. Watch out, guys. The left winger's taking over. He's starting. He's going to
Hey, he
perform.
got called to L3 again, so.
Yeah, I think that assist is what sealed the deal because he got called up over Marcelo, which I'm going to go ahead and say I find that ridiculous.
Well, I think Marcelo's call-up last game was like an introductory. Same thing with the goalkeeper that went from Athletic Bilbao. I think Padilla is the last name. I think he called some players to be in introductory conversations. I think Osiel Herrera is going to be doing the same thing. I don't think Osiel Herrera is going to get some playing time. So if you haven't seen, Diego Lainez, Sebastián Córdoba, Jesus Angulo, and Osiel Herrera are the players from Tigres who are going to the national team. And again, I think that, Marcelo was an introductory call-ups, just like Osiel Herrera, just to see where their heads at. They're young players, still developing, like we've talked about, but couldn't agree more, Edgar. Definitely Marcelo Flores is in better form. And I think even though Diego Lainez got the assist, and I thank him for it because he saved us from a horrific result at home against the 17th place team, like you mentioned. And like I said, I'm grateful that he got the assist. Hopefully he gets that spark and that push to be a contributory player to end the season, because we all want the 9th championship, obviously. So I wish him obviously the best, but I still believe that Marcelo Flores at this moment is the better player. And I think in that Leon game, he does have the better intention to attack, and he looks more aggressive. And you can tell playing on the right side, he looked good. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I really liked him on the right side. I know sometimes he looks better on the left side, going towards in, but I think that he has this move, this quick in and out, obviously not like the Elastica that Ronaldinho used to do. It looks a little bit different, but he does an in and out move, and he gets by his player with a quick acceleration, and he's able to send good crosses. That was one of the observations I made of him playing on the right side. So ultimately, thoughts and reaction. We'll start with you, Dennis, this time. Break it down for me.
Well, do you guys think that they're having introductory conversations about Memo Ochoa and Andres Guardado's inclusion to the national team too? Because knowing our coach, I'm sure he's going to find a way to have them be on that 2026 roster. Anyway, we're not even here to talk about them. As I just mentioned, I think I lost a ton of brain cells watching that game. Just like how weirdly disorganized we were defensively. That was the biggest thing for me, for how solid we were the last few weeks. Joaquin was all out of sorts, and I mean, it kind of stinks because I don't think it really was all his fault, but like the entire back line just like taken aback by how direct they were playing and how they were trying to get in behind and stuff. And Nahuel was horrible. Can we just say that Nahuel was awful in that game? Like, could have gave up another goal, maybe two. He should have saved the first one. I'm sorry. I
I
think
agree.
he was super late to that. He moved to
Yep.
that super slowly. Very, very disappointing from him because I felt like he was on a good run of games there. And for some reason, it always happens at home where he finds a way to, like, not have a good game here and there. It wasn't even like a adventures with Nahuel moment. It was just like, dude, like, react to the ball. That was one of those things. So I don't know, man. It's frustrating to drop points like that at home. It is what it is, but like it's really, really frustrating. Like we should have taken advantage of our opportunities more. Should have been way more solid defensively. But I think one of the other things about this game is that the Gignac staying in the starting lineup conversation, which should have already been over, I think reinforced from this game because, again, he's impactful. He's 39 or about to be 39 years old, and he's still scoring goals. So, like, what else do you want from him? He's not the problem, and he's never been the problem, right? So, those are all my initial thoughts for now. But yeah, it was a whirlwind of a game to try and keep track of, honestly.
Defensive errors on all the guys, like you mentioned. I think the back line was just entirely awful, and specifically on that play. Watching that play over and over, Aquino, with the intention of pushing so high, Pizarro ended up high on the field, but Nando was watching, Carioca was watching, and because obviously Pizarro stepped up to that pressure, but one of them should have been tracking back, when that moment happened. When they saw Pizarro out of place, Joaquim should have shifted along with Angulo to protect more of the goal. They didn't shift. And then Nahuel, I think in that play, Joaquim tells him to stay back, if I'm not mistaken, on that goal, to stay closer to goal. Yes? No. Was that the second goal? No, it was the first goal. Yeah. No, on the first goal, he tells him to stay back. So I think awful part on that display of our defense, which something that had stood out to be our best attribute leading up to that game. And I know, Alfred, which I'm going to you next, you talked about that in one of your, whether it was a message or tweets, that we went from, having 4 goals given up to 6 goals or 3 goals in a matter of 2 weeks or a week or so. Initial thoughts and reaction to the game. Lineups. I'm going to quickly go over it before I get your thoughts. Nahuel Guzman, Javier Aquino, Guido Pizarro, Joaquim Jesus Angulo. Realistically, that's the lineup in the back. Fernando Carioca, again, what we want to see for the most part. And then up top, the uncertainty that we've had and questions. Uriel Antuna, Sebastian Cordova playing in his traditional role, Osil Herrera a wide on the left side, and then André Pierre. Thoughts and reactions to the lineup, game overall, and your, reflection on it.
I think my overall reflection is that we need to end all hype. All hype around Pauno, all hype around our defense, all hype around our wingers, all hype around pretty much anybody except for Gignac. Or in the end, you just look at this game, and not just this one, but just over the last few games where we basically faced the worst of the league. In numbers, that's who they are. We're not trying to, speak bad on anybody or anybody else's team in Liga MX, but it's reality. I mean, you face number 17 team in Querétaro. You faced Juárez. You faced León. All those games should have been easily won, and we only got 4 points out of 9 against these teams. So we also, before these games, coming up, we were talking about how solid we were defensively and how we might, be able to beat or break the record of defensive goals in the league. I don't see that happening anymore. I mean, if we're letting these teams score on us, what's going to happen when we, match up against Rayados, when we match up against Toluca, or Cruz Azul. I mean, I don't see us being able to perform better than those teams, unfortunately. So I'm all about, getting rid of any hype. So I know right now you were still like hyping up Antuna, or some of you might still hype up some other players, but I think that the team just needs humility. They just they need to buckle down and work in all lines, and Pauno needs to do that as well, because it's not reflecting on the field. I know Lou will come up with some stats that talk positive about Tigres. I just don't see it, man. I don't see. I kind of feel the same way as with Tigres Femenil, where we're just throwing crosses up in the box to see whoever gets them, and obviously you have someone like Guignac who's going to. It's a very difficult goal to make, that header. Where he tracks back. He has to basically take 2 steps backwards, and as he's leaning backwards, head that, cross it across the goal. I mean, that's a difficult goal to make, where somebody else was not going to make that. So it wasn't even a good cross by Antuna. So I'm done with the hype. I need to see better out of everyone in this team.
I do think, though, that they did look better than the previous games against Juarez and Querétaro for lapses of the first half. Not the entire first half, but a good lapse, a good 20, 25-minute stretch. There was, effort, at least the first 10, 15 minutes. There was effort, there was intensity. It looked like they were looking to go up on the score early, not with a lot of clarity.
I'm not talking about effort, though. I'm not talking about intensity, because we've seen that change. That's something that we've talked about here in the pod, that it's a huge change from what we saw last year, and that's thanks to Ortega.
But not against the game against Juarez and Querétaro. Like, those games were awful. Like, there was no effort and intensity in those games. They were playing slow, and they were sending a bunch of crosses, and it was super predictable. To me, this León game, there was a more, like, it almost like a, hey, get it together type act, and then they sort of forgot that heading into the second half. But
it's always like that at home. It's always like that. It's like, once we play home games, it's like the crowd cheers you up, and and you put more into it. But I'm talking about just tactically. I don't see us really collectively, building up play the way we should be with the players that we have.
Yeah, no, on that part I do agree. Lou, what do you make about the game? Walk us through your observations through the first half and lead into the second half, and some individuality performances.
Honestly, I didn't hate the game offensively. We had 20 shots, 9 shots on goal, very good possession. Um, I thought we were trying things a little bit different than we had in the last 3 or 4 games. Um, I'm with Alfred. Overall, tactically, we don't look great, but in this game, I feel like the boys kind of were trying things a little bit different, not relying so much on the crosses. There was a little bit more link up play. There was a little bit more connections happening in the final third, where I was like, oh, there's a little bit of a wrinkle there. There's some hope. And then at times I felt like I was watching a Siboldi game. Like, we were pushing, trying things on the attack, but completely lost on the transition defense. And I think that's what ended up hurting us against León, is that just tactically we weren't disciplined. And I think had we just been a little bit smarter, a little more be a little bit more patient, we might have been able to squeak out a win. But we were too gung ho on the attack, and we forgot to cover our ass. We forgot to cover our rear end, and in those transition moments, we were completely lost. And I think León had a really good game plan going into the game. I think they knew they were going to have to sit in a low block and counter, and they had the elements to do it. I think they were pretty confident that they could, with the speed that they had up top, be able to hurt us on those transitions. And they did well, man. I mean, they didn't generate a ton on us, but the ones that they had, they took advantage of it. And credit to them. I mean, they were able to score. But I just feel like it was one of those games where, man, if we would have just been a little bit more disciplined, a little smarter, maybe we pull out a win on this one. So I mean, I didn't necessarily hate the game, and I agree with Alfred. I think there's a lot we got to fix, man. And then there's really nothing to be, super excited about. I'm with him. It's just we've had bad games against poor competition. And Leon obviously has turned it around with this new coach. I mean, they look totally different than what they did under Baba. So a little credit to them too, in the sense that they're not going to be the same team they were in the first half. I think they're going to close out strong. They're going to be a better team. But we faced some really bad teams, and we just didn't get the point. So yeah, I'm with him. We have to just be level-headed and say, look, there's a ton to fix. And obviously, if our transition defense is going to be an issue moving forward, watch out, dude, because we're going to get killed in Liguilla against, like the Tolucas and the Cruz Azul teams. They'll slaughter us, dude, if we don't get that together. So hopefully they're looking at film and they're saying, hey, this is how we need to recover when we go from that transition from offense to defense. This is where we need to be. These needs to be our spots or positions. Otherwise, dude, we're going to get picked apart.
Yeah, because the stats favored us this game. There's a few games that the stats didn't necessarily favor us. We had 65% possession, which we had given up, in a handful of games of possession to the other teams. Lou, you mentioned the total shots that we had. Their goalkeeper, turned into, like I mentioned during my timeline during the game, Manuel Neuer. Buffon and Noor like fused together, bro. Like in Dragon Ball Z, man. Like that was wild. Like the man risked it all, a contract renewal, like his bonus, whatever they were feeding him to, perform really well. And obviously a lot of teams step up when they play Tigres nowadays. But ultimately, shout out to him because those two saves that he had on Cordova, the shot and then the header, incredible. And so, like I said, shout out to him. And then obviously corner kicks, like I mentioned, we had 9 corner kicks, no real danger there. I think there was one initially. It was I'm not really sure what they call it in English, but a prefabricada, like, play that they work on during the week where it was a low cross. I hadn't seen that in a long time, a low cross, and he back flicks it. I think it was Antuna, tries to back flick and change direction just to see if anybody would tap it in. Didn't work, but that was kind of cool to see something different. But ultimately, corner kicks is still not something that favors us on the scoreboard. I think that, like I mentioned in the last pod, having Guido Pizarro and Joaquim in the air, like you got to find them. Somebody's got to send good crosses in and get these guys the ball in the air so they can score some goals. The passes stood out to me as well. Lou, you mentioned, that Leon had a plan with Berizzo to send a low block. 469 passes that Tigres had to their 258 passes that they had overall in the game. But ultimately, it's like you say, we got to fix things. But here's my next question to you now, Edgar, is Paunovic, he's had enough time now. It's been quite a amount of games now under, sitting in the coaching spot. What do you think his thought process? Obviously, he's doing some of the rotations that we've been sort of used to, but one specifically, Guido Pizarro hasn't been rotated out of the lineup. It's had a full, season of all minutes played, and for a guy that's played now defensive, mid position in a game where he started, and also, providing more high pressure and obviously, a lot of buildup, is a guy that not necessarily saying that he's being worn out. But if the guys is doing these other rotations, he's not. What do you make of Paunovic so far in these amount of games that he's coached, as well as what's happened in the recent games?
So I think with Guido Pizarro, it's kind of giving a little bit favoritism just because, like, I understand that as the captain, there's like an extra level of confidence and dependability on him there. But like you just mentioned, when you look at the schedule and when you look at everything else that we're doing with other players, I mean, in my humble opinion, Gignac is still a 90-minute player, but we're going to rotate him out and we're not going to use him the 90 minutes for whatever his reasons are being. And I think the same should apply to Guido Pizarro. I think it's a really strange opportunity that we're not taking advantage of. I don't think that I would confidently say that he's been one of the more regular. Well, I mean, he has been one of the more regular players, but I don't think that that's enough to exempt him from these mystery random rotations that we're seeing.
And I guess to turn it over to you guys as well is that, why does Carioca, not get rotated and Pizarro? Oh, I'm sorry. Why does Carioca get rotated and Pizarro doesn't? When at times we need more what Carioca provides on the field in the middle of the field. Do you guys have any thoughts in regard to that?
I just think he's more versatile. I mean, obviously, you have Pizarro now playing as a center back when he was before a center mid. And you're able to take out Carioca at points of the game where you need to, add another offensive player. And then you still have, Pizarro back there that's going to be able to provide that role, that double role. So that obviously works in his favor. But again, I mean, like you guys are saying, there's Reyes too. Reyes could easily, fill that spot as well, fill that position. I honestly don't have much to say about, having to sit Pizarro down or anything. In the end, if we were seeing bad performances out of Pizarro, then maybe I would question it. But, so far, I don't think that we've had a bad season out of him.
What about whenever, like, you guys have said in the past, like, I'm glad Carioca got arrested, and, like, does that not apply to Guido Pizarro as well?
I think it should. The problem, well, I don't know. You can apply this to Carioca too. I mean, when we think about the spine of the team, right? Like it's Nahuel, it's Guido, it's Rafa, and it's Gignac, and then either Cordova or Bruneta. In my opinion, that's your five. That's the spine. The problem though is that Guido is kind of like the coach on the field, and we've seen that under Paunovic. We saw it under Siboldi. He's yapping at everybody, getting them in position, telling them where to go. And my fear is that if he's not on the field, that really like takes things out of sync. And somebody else obviously has to step up. And so who does that? Because Rafa's not, like, Carioca's not very vocal, if you think about it. I feel like he's a little bit more quieter. So who else is that person? Nahuel, maybe? So I don't know. I understand from that angle. I get why Guido's playing all the time to kind of be like that person really driving everything and keeping things organized. And also, let's be real, he hasn't put in a foot wrong. So the thing now too is that if you wanted to rotate him in and out, it should have been during these last 3 games, but it didn't happen. So you're not going to see him get benched against Rayados or Toluca or Cruz Azul. No, that opportunity is out the window. I
personally don't have a problem him playing all the minutes. I'm for it. I think he's one of the best players. I guess my thought process whenever I was sharing that with you guys earlier, and then Edgar put it on the outline and now to discuss, is that, with rotations actually happening so much and, trying to watch out players' performance, especially with the intended approach of intensity that, we have shown in, 75% of the games that we've played so far, you would think that he would also be included in that rotation, regardless of where he's playing on the field, whether that's center back position, center defensive mid, because everybody else has gotten the rest, whether that's due to natural causes of an injury or, a coaching selection based on the rotation. And so my thing is, like, in a game where we have struggled, where Rafa Carioca has not played, and you would think, like, well, if Guido Pizarro didn't get rotated, like, why should Carioca, also not get rotated? And so that was my only thing. I'm not trying to make something like so big out of it. Obviously, it's something to highlight. He, obviously our captain, all minutes played. He recently, became, the second most player with the most games played for club history. Would be number 1 if he didn't leave to Sevilla in 2017. So ultimately, I'm not trying to take anything away from his importance on the field. What do we think? I know this is your topic, Alfred. The youth dilemma. What's gonna happen, bro? Is he gonna play him now? podcast episode, or when we went live on Friday, you weren't able to join us, where we just sort of discussed it a little bit, and I think you now have gotten a grasp of where I stand on it. But obviously, it would be good to hear everybody's thoughts on it. Chicha Sanchez, again, it looked like it was a possible game for him to play, at least get a solid 20, 30 minutes, but I don't think he's truly ahead of the other wingers, and even if he was maybe that good, then he would have actually played. But I think that the trust factor is also there, by the coaching staff, because he's still obviously young and hasn't, played very much professionally. What do you think? Should we be concerned? You think ultimately we're just going to make it happen?
I think what concerns me is just the not being able to know exactly what's going on in Pauno's mind. Like, if he's truthfully like, hey, I don't trust Chicha Sanchez, I don't think I'll be able to bring him in these 180 minutes. We need to get as many points as possible, and then get deducted those 3 points at the end. Then come out and say that. But nobody's really talking about it, and it's to me it's just strange. I mean, because it's really worrisome for me. If we do lose those 3 points at the end of the season, not only are we going to fall down, the standings to get to get potential home games, home closing games in Liga, but we could also fall as far low as out of the straight Liga play, because we have some tough matchups coming up. So yeah, I mean, you guys talked about it, and that's the reason why I made that thread on Twitter. If there was any opportunity for us to bring in Chicha Sanchez for those 90 minutes per game on 2 easy games, it should have been this one against León and then the next one against Puebla, right? But now the León game was tight, and it kind of got out of hand, but it goes back to what I was talking about. I mean, we're just underperforming against these lesser teams. Then there's no chance for Chicha Sanchez to show up. So now they got to play him at least 26 minutes in each one of the next games, or now you got to play him 90 minutes on 2 full games, and it could be Puebla and another one against maybe who's still left, Mazatlan, I think.
Yeah,
Tijuana, maybe.
But but either way, those teams are also they're not bottom of the standings team like León was, or like Juarez was, or like Querétaro was. So, when are we gonna bring them in?
I think we're gonna forfeit the points, man. To be honest with you,
that's what I'm thinking.
And I think it's because Pauno is banking on us finishing around 33 to 35 points. So,
and that's why I say I wish that Pauno would come out and say that, just like the America coach. He came out and talked about it. Yeah. He came out and straightforward said, "I don't like this rule. I'm not gonna put in players. That's not what I'm here for." I feel like Pauno should come out and say that Tigres is not about building players, and we're gonna make as many points as possible. And if they gotta deduct our points, they gotta deduct them. But at least let us know.
I disagree with you guys. I think he's gonna play them.
When?
I don't see, to me, like, that doesn't matter, because ultimately, if you're going to forfeit the points because you're not going to play him, then just forfeit the points by playing him, and maybe he doesn't give you the contribution. Like, if he doesn't play out and have a good showing, then oh well, like, you lose the game, you tie. But I don't think he's gonna go, even though, because it goes against the interest of the leagues. Even though the America coach came out and talked about it, that the Luca coach came out and talked about it, that they don't like the rules for it, they have to do it. Tuca Ferretti didn't like it, and he played young players when the thing was that rule was in play, and it didn't make sense for those players to play. I think I was trying to remember, but I know there was one young guy. I don't know if at the time it was Jair Diaz when he was much younger that he played him, and that rule was in effect. I might have to do my research, but I know Tuca Ferretti had to play a couple of young players during his tenure. And so for me, like, we're not showing great soccer, so it's not going to matter. So if he comes in and plays in place of either Antuna or in place of Osil Herrera, I think you just play him and write it out. I don't think there's a strategy.
Why would he have not done it against the weaker
Exactly.
opponents already, bro?
Because I think
Like
he was
even 30 minutes or 20 minutes or something.
Go back
He
to
already done it.
I
Go
do
back
want to
to-
remind y'all he was sick for the Juarez game.
Okay, that, and then go back to his availability when he was with the national team. He wasn't available for all the games for the league. We played, 10 leagues game now, if I'm not mistaken? 10 league games. And like I said, I could easily say that he wasn't available for 4 or 5 of those games. And that's, something that we'll have to look into. I think that he probably thought that he was going to be in a better position. And I think he had the intention of playing him against these bad teams, and it didn't happen. But ultimately, he's going to have to plug him in. I don't think these teams are going to go against the interest of the leagues of what the influence comes from, these important teams to say, hey, we're going to forfeit these matches. I don't think America is going to do that because America is fighting for spots. And, obviously that's a different team, but I don't see them doing it. Toluca's fighting for the top spots where we're all leveled at the top between Cruz Azul, who is not far off from us. Toluca is a point ahead of us. Rayados. I just don't think, even though it's an important matter because it is a rule that has to be done, I think overall it just doesn't make sense that let's forfeit the points. I think that's a fireable offense because you didn't manage your way into coaching, and putting this guy in when you did have him available, even though you didn't think the games were going to go the way that you thought they were going to go because they were against lower standing teams. But ultimately, he plugged him.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you're being a little bit
who's gonna fire him though? I don't know. Like let's say he doesn't do it and we finish with 33 points, right? And so they forfeit the 3 and we finish with 30 and we're in the top. 30 should put you around what? Third place?
Top 6.
But that's not guaranteed though, Lou. That's not guaranteed, and our recent games have shown us that. That's not a guarantee that we're going to get those points.
Nothing's a guarantee, but I mean, come on, Pauno has to be thinking you get points against Puebla, you get points against Tijuana, you get points against Pachuca, you get points against Mazatlan, right? So you got 4 games where you got potentially 12 points there. And then don't tell me that he's thinking he's going to lose against Rayados. I think if he's thinking losses, it's maybe Toluca and Cruz Azul. So that's your 6 points that you drop. And then now you're talking 12 points, 12, 13 points,
Yeah,
to me that's not too far fetched if I'm Pauno.
In a perfect scenario, I would totally agree with you. But we lost against the 17th place team in Querétaro, barely beat Juarez, and we struggled against León. Nothing has shown me that your familiarity with the teams and what they've displayed and the coaching mentality.
Well, let me tell you this,
correct.
Arnoldo. If you can't pull off 12, 13 points against that kind of competition, you got bigger problems than losing 3. You know what I'm saying?
Which I think we do at the moment.
Let's say you go in against Toluca and you've only managed 2 or 3 points from here on in, bro, you're in huge trouble. Now you're fighting for your job, not because you didn't play some kids. It's because you stinking suck.
Yeah, so you don't think with what we've seen all season, even though the points have been there and reflects that we're in good shape sitting in the 3rd spot. We've had some bad games. Look, if you look at the amount of goals that we've scored all season, we haven't really clicked offensively where we can say, hey, we're doing okay. Whereas other teams have looked better offensively where they haven't struggled as much and they've gotten more points or better results than we have. So,
which is why there's less reason for us to bring him in. I mean, if I'm going to side with you and I say, all right, so what's the perfect scenario for us to bring Chicha Sanchez in? It's a game that we're winning, right? If we're up 1-0, 2-0, 20 minutes left in the game, you bring Chicha Sanchez in. But we haven't had that chance except for against Pumas, and he didn't bring him in against Pumas. And I think he was back from Selección by that time. So, in reality, yes, you are right. I mean, we shouldn't have to lose those 3 points, but at the same time, we haven't been able to place ourselves in a position where we could comfortably say, oh, let's bring the kid in. And if we weren't able to do that against these teams, what makes you think that's going to happen against the
So,
rest?
so what's the
that are coming
difference?
up?
Like the other teams that have done it, like Toluca, who has done it, and they're still trying to get themselves together.
No, honestly, I think Toluca plays better than us.
No,
I'm
yeah,
not sure
without
what
a
you-
doubt, without a
that's the
doubt,
difference.
without a doubt.
That's the
But
difference.
with the beginning of the season, like that wasn't like calculated, and they're only a point ahead of us, and they do play a lot better, and they're gonna take off to better form. But they've been playing younger guys to where the kid that played in this last game that scored 2 goals. I think ultimately he's like it's not gonna matter what game it is. He's just gonna have to plug him in, whether that's an important match or not.
But I mean, look at the Toluca games. I mean, they scored 4 against Atlas, they scored 4 against Tijuana, they scored 2 on Rayados, they scored 2 on San Luis.
What's the difference of him? What's the difference that Marcelo? What's the difference that Marcelo starts, even though we know his form is much better because it's been proven at his time now? What's the difference of him, getting the shot versus Chicha? Like, wouldn't if we want to really get the minutes from it, like why can't he just plug him into a game, no matter the opponent?
Yeah, I just don't think he's at the level of Marcelo.
Honestly, man, I think Pauno has bigger fish to fry. To me,
Yeah.
I think that's in the back of his head. He's not, hey, let me play Chicha so I can get the minutes. I think his priorities are, let me straighten out these guys and let me get the points.
I don't think he was prepared to struggle so much with the wingers.
Yeah.
Because ultimately,
or Groneta being crap.
In a perfect scenario, like you would have, forfeited one of them to like take off a night and played him, which he's basically done that already. But he just has a higher trust in the professionals. And
in a perfect scenario, you would have, scored 2 or 3 goals on Querétaro. You would have scored 2 or 3 goals on Juárez. You would have scored 2 or 3 goals on León, and you would have had a chance to bring in Chicha, but you didn't. So, like Lou saying, there's bigger fish to fry. You got to get your team in shape first.
Yeah, I'm still thinking he's just going to plug him in. I don't think it's going to be like what opponent or like a less favorable opponent. He's just going to have to play him.
What's that? Bet right now. Bet it right now, bro.
Oh,
I will. I don't think it's going to be like tactically approved. I'm telling you, he's just going to plug him in.
Shake on
so
it.
26 minutes each of the next 7 days.
No 26 minutes, bro. He's just going to plug him in and let him play. Like, you don't have the luxury to play him like strategically. If he's not going to force,
but are you saying he's going to start him, Arnoldo?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that he's going to go the approach of like, ooh, let's play him 26 minutes this next game and the following game, and like, ooh, let's see if the result favors us.
How many games does he need to start to be able to get the minutes?
Two.
So he's going to start him 2 and give him the full 90 is what you're saying?
Yes. If he doesn't give him the full 90, he's gonna have to start him. Like he doesn't have the luxury, like Alfred's saying and you guys are saying, to like playing.
Yeah,
well, hey, so we're gonna find out in these next 3 games then.
Yeah. I don't think
if he doesn't start versus Puebla and he doesn't start versus Mazatlan, forget it, bro. There goes your theory.
It's not happening. To me, it's not happening anymore because it didn't happen against León.
We'll find out real soon, Arnoldo. If you're right or
not.
not.
I just don't think that if you guys say that we're gonna forfeit the points, what's the difference of like just plugging them in and forfeiting the points against a tougher opponent when we haven't really demonstrated against lesser opponents? Like,
because you can't do that, bro. You can't.
Why not?
Say I'm gonna just call it. No, like you force the league to take them away from you. That's what you do. On the pitch, you got to battle for it.
Well, so what was the difference when Tuca was lining those players and when the rule was in effect as well, and that he had to play them? He was lining up terrible players.
He had more comfortable scores, more comfortable games where he could plug them in.
Tuca had a bank too, bro. Tuca had the bank. I mean, he had all these titles under his belt. It's like he's a proven coach. Pauno's first year.
I agree with you.
Look, they fired Siboldi, who had won a championship. And Pauno in his first year, if he stinks it up, bro, I mean, I wouldn't put it past the front office to be like, dude, you're out.
Yeah,
and even taking it out of the responsibility of Pauno's hands, I would even like put it on the institution as far as Tigres. Like forcefully, I wouldn't be mad at forcefully forfeiting those 3 games. That's a big F you to the league.
Yeah, that's not a good look. That's not a good look. That's not what we want to do. That's not. That
I mean,
doesn't
what
represent.
are you
That
talking about? I
doesn't.
mean,
That doesn't
Hey,
represent
we're
what
just
we're
already-
supposed to
signed
do,
with Azteca and got Televisa, pretty much mad at us and stinking
bro.
up our game. So
We had literally something where we like filtered out to the press where our guy did something terribly. I don't think that we're just gonna go and be like, "Hey guys, f you guys, we're gonna forfeit these
Arnoldo,
3 points."
we're already the league rebels, bro. Why not be a rebel in this
yeah,
regard and then say to the league, hey, you want your ratings to go up? Let us play the way we want to play instead of forcing these kids on us.
Okay, I'm just gonna.
Make a
I'm
big
just
stake,
gonna.
make a big splash. I would love it, actually. I would love for us
that's
to
what
make
I'm
a big
saying.
splash.
I'm gonna sum it up to where like it's not that. I guess my arguments that are my counter arguments that I have about the discussion is that to me it doesn't really matter because it's not something that is a concern for me because ultimately, like the concern is we suck at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we need to play our best 11. We need to play our best 11 and say,
But
hey,
we
at
don't
least we
have a
went
best
down with our
11.
best 11.
And that's what my concern is. We don't have a best 11, brother. We
There's
can't
gotta
figure out who
be
starts.
a better 11. Let's just say a better 11 somewhere.
No
Better
mames,
11
Lou.
again.
No mames. We can't even figure out who's taking the corner kick, bro. We don't know if Carioca's crossing or.
I'll go in and take the corner kicks, bro. I guarantee
That's
you.
why, like,
Set up the
you know, I counter it just because, like, to me, it's not that important to play fucking Chicha Sanchez. You can plug in a center back for all I care and just plug him in and get the 90 minutes. And, you know, you could go a lineup of Tapia, Chuy Garza, Marcelo, Ociel Herrera, and bring in a Fierro who contributes and a youngster. And I wouldn't care because it doesn't matter. We don't have an identity. We don't have great management with real, you know, rivals that we've had during this season, not in the League's Cup, where, you know, the contradictory of play styles sometimes favored us. I guess specifically the Miami game, you know, they had injuries. We played against Pachuca, who could have easily won that game. So we got some results. Yes, we third in the standings. Yes, but ultimately, like, we're not where we need to be because we can't figure out who our best 4 attacking players minus Gignac is.
I'm with you, man. You're preaching to the choir. But I think this team's gonna flip the switch come Liguilla, bro.
Bro,
It's gonna
you've
be
said
just
this to
like the
me.
other days.
He said that the
Just
last
like the
3
other
pods.
seasons, bro.
You've said this to
What
me.
I'm more scared about right now, Arnoldo, is the Kraken coming in, El Luis Quiñones Ujei coming in here and destroying Jesus Angulo, bro.
Yeah, moving on to the next segment. Let Edgar bring up the next sentence since you already brought El Kraken. I'm frustrated with you guys. I'm over it. Forget you, Chicha Sanchez. You ain't getting playing time. What's the next segment, Double O Nation?
Alrighty. Tio Puebla is coming to visit. This upcoming Saturday, Tigres will host El Poderosísimo Club Puebla at the Volcán. They'll be visiting after 3 consecutive losses and residing in 12th place of the league table. There's one thing we've learned from the lower table teams, it's that they will fight this match like a league final. Will we see lessons learned after points lost at home, or is Paunovic doomed to repeat his mistakes?
Doomed.
Hey,
What do you
Puebla's
think,
coming
guys?
in
I mean,
on a
just, you know, lean into
three-game
what we've been
losing
discussing.
streak. 3-game losing streak coming in from Puebla, bro. Somebody needs
That's
to
a
do the
perfect
meme
recipe for us to revive
the
them.
dog. The meme dog, the dog with the we're pointing at the dog like, don't you mess it up.
Oh, yeah.
It's the perfect recipe, bro.
Bro, when I saw he had a doblete, and I know like nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to bring it up because the guy sucks. But he had a doblete, he became the PK taker within a few weeks of like making his transfer. Man,
Take
an
a
important
shot.
player.
Take a shot. Did you not read
I haven't
the
mentioned
outline?
it. I haven't mentioned him.
You're implying that you're mentioning him.
Lou started with calling him the Kraken.
That's what you too. Take a shot. Take a shot.
Oh, Rey.
Hey, Jesus Angulo better watch out, bro. Luis Quiñones is gonna be on fire, bro. Watch out. Jesus Angulo. And Luis Quiñones knows him too well. So Jesus Angulo better be on point. Because Luis Quiñones is not playing around, bro. He's just taking the bodies. No hostages. Taking no hostages with him. Watch out.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope that doesn't happen, but we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised. But let's get back into the not so starting 11 that we have, and what do we think that's going to happen in this upcoming game? Is he going to rotate them all like Ash Ketchum?
No
I think
clue.
he has to. And I think maybe now that we saw Brunetta score, he will make his way back into the starting 11. I know he was kind of punished, shunned, put in a box in the closet, be forgotten about for a couple games. But I think he'll bring him back for the starting 11.
The return of the
Give me
BCG.
your 4 up top, Edgar. Your
BCG
4 up
plus
top,
O.
give them to me.
BCG and O.
And Jude. Or Jude Bellingham.
I wouldn't be
No,
mad at that.
I think Nico starts, man.
Jesus. Here we
Hey,
go.
we don't want. Hey, hold on.
4-4-2, bro. 4-4-2.
We don't want Nico to get hurt. We gotta make sure he's in tip-top shape so we can send him to Feyenoord since they need a champion.
Bro,
Lou, you're gonna send Arnoldo straight to the ER after this pod episode, man. Come on.
I just want Arnoldo to experience what I'll be experiencing in the chat on game day.
No, for me, what triggers is like the overconfidence of like the wingers. It's like if it happens, it happens, guys. Like we don't have that great of wingers just yet. Like it hasn't happened. They're not a reality just yet. They have upside. They have skills that they need to polish, decision making, physical abilities that they have to improve. But ultimately, and not so much on Antuna because he should be a lot more polished. His recorrido and his 10 years at other teams, specifically, a sort of European experience at, just by being bought by Man City and, being at Chivas and Santos, where he started off, and then Cruz Azul. He should be a player that comes in and contributes. I think he had a decent game against León. I think that he had the space. He had better crosses. Even Boy Ortiz, who doesn't like him, it was very clear that he does not like him. Was giving him compliments.
Tigres, so.
Oh yeah, he hates Tigres. He's a big America fan. You gotta get used to. That's gonna be the entire broadcast on Estrella TV now moving forward. But ultimately, I think he had a decent game. I think he earned his starting spot for this next game at least. I'm not saying the rest of the season. I think that you repeat the lineup up top, and whether that's going to happen or not, probably not. I personally would like to see what Edgar said. I think that Brunetta, Cordova, and Ociel with Gignac. I think that for the minutes that we got at the beginning of the Pauno tenure, worked with Cordova mixing out wide and whatever Brunetta has to do, but he's too much of a talented player to ride the bench. He comes in. He didn't have a ton of he was great, but he ultimately found the sweet spot to score the goal. I think if anything, Cordova continued to excel once Brunetta came onto the field, and the responsibility of the offensive punch went through Cordova. There was a play, guys, that he does this very often, and I hope you guys can visually see it when I say this out loud. There's this play, closer to the end, like he just has a way to bring the ball down that it's like super awesome. Like, and he was on the right side, and he's like sort of juggles the ball, but it's not a juggle move, but he just has a way to like whether chest it down and then like flick it over to his other side, because he's so good with both feet that he does that quite a bit actually throughout games, where he just had so much control. And I was like, ooh, and he transitioned into the box, and then hizo un recorte, and then he tried to cross. But ultimately, Sebastián Cordova, I think, and we can all agree, we talked about it, was the best player in that León match. So I think no matter what, he has to be in the starting position. Ociel, had some involvement, but ultimately, again, still showing inconsistencies, which we obviously have criticized him for. So I don't know what we're going to get. I don't know if you guys have any other input as far as rotations that, he's going to do.
But you're saying that he should repeat lineup.
No, I would not repeat lineup. I would go Bruneta, Cordova, Ociel, and Gignac. But I know he's going to repeat lineup with Antuna and Ociel on the wings.
So you're not going to plug in
¿Y dónde dejas Salchicha?
No, I'm telling you, I'm not going to. I don't want to play him.
Okay. That's not what you were saying earlier.
No, I'm saying that he's going to get plugged in.
When
he has to. If it's the last 2 games of the season, he's going to get plugged in.
No,
hombre.
What? We're not going to. I'm telling you, we're not going to spend time on that because ultimately, I don't care if he plays or not. I just don't think it's a big. I don't think it's a big deal when you haven't figured out how to get your team to play in a way consistently over 15, 16 games now that you've had the team.
But you said it was a fireable offense if he doesn't.
Yes, and I think that ultimately, like, if we don't do well, like, I'd be okay with moving on, because he got some players that he wanted, right? He got Joaquim, and he said no to
got
Samir.
everything he wanted. Everything he wanted.
I don't know about everything because I don't think he got his defensive mid. I think he really didn't want Nando Gorreran. And if he did, he was good with settling with him and Nene Beltran starting at that position. He wanted not Fierro. He wanted El Piojo Alvarado. He didn't get El Piojo, so he got Antuna. So he got similar characteristics, even though Piojo is like night and day when it comes to Antuna. But ultimately, he was given some help as to what he wanted to implement, and he inherited a team that any coach would desire as far as talent-wise. So he can't complain on that end. And if he doesn't do well, I think it's okay to move on. Will they do that? I don't know. I don't think so, because they've had too many errors in the last couple of years to continue on this path. So, yeah.
Do we see Samir Caetano anytime?
No, he wasn't even on the bench for this past game.
Samir de la Premier, anybody?
I thought he was. No,
he wasn't on the bench
last game.
Okay.
No, he's just gonna be. He's toast. He's not. He's just gonna be in case you need him.
Hear me out. Formation change.
All right.
Either a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-2-4-1 a la Man City. Okay. Angulo, Joaquim, Guido as your 3. And then you have Carioca and Gori in the midfield, duh. But then you either have Ociel and Aquino like higher up with Cordova and Bruneta, or more in the middle with the midfielders and then APG. I don't know. I think you got to do something different, and you got to try to find ways to play through the middle, because obviously this like span crossing.
I don't see
I know, but the span crossing method has got to stop, because clearly
this can, man.
No, I think
if Pauno wanted to play down the middle, we would have seen it by now.
I think Pauno's gonna die with the wing play, man. I think he's gonna die with that.
Yeah, he's not gonna improvise, and it sucks that he can't play down the middle because there's so much talent down the middle.
I think his best hope is consolidating Bruneta and Cordova in those spots, and Ozzy on the left wing, and having enough chemistry and enough good play from those guys to be able to feed our forward. I think that's his only bet. That's the only bet.
And we talked about it the last 2 weeks.
Flores coming in with a spark, kind of giving you a little something different, little something.
On paper, that's the best lineup. Didn't we all agree on the last 2 weeks?
But how many times has he tried that this season, though? With actual, Bruneta playing as central attacking mid, and Cordova kind of a little bit drifted off to the right wing. How many times has he done that? Just one, right? And it worked out good.
Pachuca,
but it seems like he's open.
And I want to say that Santos game too.
But did they start? Both of them start?
Maybe Brunetta didn't start that game. I think it was Cordova. Cordova played out wide. He played a 4-3-3 that game.
Yeah, and I
Which
think
is
he just if he can make those two, especially those two, work, because Ozzy's been pretty consistent. I mean, he hasn't been brilliant, but he's been consistently good. And I think if he can make Brunetta step up and Cordova play the way he played against Leon, I think you've got the potential there to be able to really manhandle some matches. But he's gonna have to bank on that. I don't know if he's willing to or not, but he's gonna have to roll the dice on those being your
yeah.
attacking players.
Like I said, on paper, that's the quote unquote best starting 11 on paper. But they have to show.
I'm going back to each one of the games. Bro, he's never had that lineup.
In the
I want to
Pachuca
say
game,
the
he did.
first game of the season he had it, or first or
Against
second game of the
Necaxa?
season.
No, I'll tell you. It was Luis Quinones instead of Osiel. Close. He had the
Okay.
BCG, but it was
But
Luis Quinones.
okay. I do remember just being
Yeah.
the BCG and us
Yeah,
talking
we
about it.
remember the BCG on the first game, but it wasn't Osiel. It was Luis Quinones.
And it
So
was in
he's never played those
Pachuca.
four up top.
Pachuca
Mm-mm.
again in the
Take a
Leagues Cup.
shot. Take a shot. Let me stop.
Are you
In
talking
the
about
Leagues-
in Leagues Cup?
Yeah, he played. He played them.
Oh, maybe in Leagues Cup. I didn't look at
He
Leagues
did.
Cup.
He did.
Is that the game in Austin? The game in Austin?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cordova actually had a decent game, I thought.
Yeah.
Against
So did Brunetta.
Yeah. I think Pauno's kind of missing the mark on that, dude, because when they've been together, they've looked good. They feed off of each other well. They complement each other well, and I think they take the load off of each other, which is also important. I think he's gonna have to fire the trigger on that, man.
And something to add to that as well is that Cordova just has really good retention on the ball, and he's able to like find his way on the wing if he has to. And you have Aquino who can go up and provide that help to extend the field out wider in that part of the field, so where he doesn't have to be such a true winger. But it goes back to like, what is he? Is he seeing the same things that we're seeing, right? Like, is he really seeing that Cordova is probably one of his three most important players on the field overall for his tenure that he's been with the team, and he's gonna have to resist the idea of like these wing players who are not in the best form to play through the wings that he wants to play and like take those fullbacks 1v1 and send a ton of crosses, because the crosses that he's sending or that they're sending, it's not like they're blowing by the fullbacks. They're just like they get to that sweet spot, that Torres Nilo sweet spot where the corners where he had that cross, and they send them in. It's not like they're going on Damian Alvarez to the end line and saying, okay, let's do that. Like that's rare. And the closest one actually that's done it is Antuna, but he hasn't been great when he's done it until this past game where he was a little bit more decent.
And I think what Cordova does is, just to add to your point, is that he's able to make his crosses either inside the box or a lot closer to the box, which makes for a more accurate cross. You get more opportunities to deliver a better cross than if you were in the end line but very close to the sideline. Which what a lot of dudes want to do is just ride up that sideline, get to the end line, make the cross, which is it's a longer cross, gives more of an opportunity for the defenders to clear it. Whereas Cordova is more willing to enter the box than try to find a connection.
And you can see the intention when the ball goes in there. Like, oh, that's what he was looking for. It's not like, oh, who? Let's see who gets it and fights to get it. You can see he was looking for someone specifically. In most cases, it's Gignac.
Yeah.
And that chemistry, right? We've highlighted like nobody has better chemistry than Gignac than Cordova does.
Yep.
So
we'll see, man. Pauno has been reluctant, but I think I don't know, man. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what his thought process is on that.
I think for me, and it's gonna be a great setup for me. I have family coming in. It's my brother's baby shower this Saturday, and so we're gonna be watching the game with a lot of Tigres fans at my parents' house, and it's gonna be a good setting, like for me to get into the mood. Whether if I'm on board with Pauno to be our coach. Whether that obviously, I don't have any influence if he stays or doesn't, but whether I buy into what he's trying to do, because we have a favorable opponent once again at home where we should demolish like we should have the last few games, even though not all were at home. And it'll tell a lot about the players as well, right? Like now you have a back-to-back home game, and you had decent performances from some of the players, even though throughout the Leon game, some of them dropped form, specifically after the second half started. After the first 5-6 minutes, players dropped form. The subs threw the team off as well, I think, and closer to the end, obviously, that inertia to tie the game, being at home and making that last push, wasn't a direct influence overall, like of how much better that we could have played. But like I said, I think it'll say a lot about what our coach is really made for, because ultimately he has a talented team. He has players that he requested, or at least characteristics that he requested. And so there's nothing to say, hey, you didn't really do well because you weren't given the help necessary. Predictions.
I'm gonna go 2-1.
2-1 as well.
2-1. Gol de Luis Quiñones.
Take a shot.
I didn't want to say it, bro. I don't want to say it.
Bro, it's gonna happen.
He
It
takes
going
off
to
his
happen.
he takes off his jersey, shows the back, the
A la
number to the
Messi.
crowd like this.
A la
Like,
Messi.
No,
I
you know
love
what?
Messi.
You know what? He's not going to do that, because he's all about that. He's gonna pretend that he didn't care that he got booed
Bro,
so much.
If
at one
Fulgencio
time.
did it, you think Quiñones is not going to? Come on.
Bro, who is Fulgencio in regards to our history, though?
Ask Woodsy, man. He's a crack.
yeah.
What is that guy? What did that guy
Clean
do
ass.
to like? What did that guy do besides being, represented by Siboldi's son to get playing time?
Ruined the final.
At least
for us.
Quiñones was the assist king.
Too soon,
Oh,
Dennis.
Ray.
Yeah, no, I'm more that if he does score though, he's gonna like not celebrate. He's gonna give it a little show, like, "Ooh, I care," like, which I think he truly did care. And like, I think honestly, like, people overlooked that he was a very liked person in the locker room, and I think like most people were like didn't want him to leave, and I think you reflected on that when he was leaving, Edgar, and maybe they saw a different story than all of us, obviously, as fans, because obviously we care for the team, and not saying that the players don't, but I think obviously seeing him every day and whatnot, I think he's definitely gonna, be more respectful towards the fan base that booed him during the last 2 or 3 years that he was here.
1-1.
1-1.
1-1, Dennis.
Yeah.
That
Not
is
feeling
so
so
I'm gonna go just because I know that they want me to, stress and argue and give out terrible takes. They're gonna have a great performance, and I'm gonna sit here and have to eat it all up, and have to ride out the Pauno Wade. I'm going 3-0.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
I've learned that anytime this is just for me, but anytime I give a positive prediction, it doesn't happen. So I'm just gonna start being more neutral and slightly
Bro,
negative.
we've been
Guys.
way off all predictions all season.
Guys, don't do that. I think my negativity is rubbing off on you guys. Come on.
Maybe. Nah, the good thing though is like, to me, it's like ultimately they're still fun games. I think that we do show glimpses of like talent. I just think that because of the expectations that we've had, and like I've said it numerous times, when we won so many championships and you get used to winning so much, like you think that you're just always going to win. And ultimately, like sometimes we're just, we're blinded by the fact of our fanatism that like our team, at times is not the best. But there's still a good time to watch. Like I said, they show glimpses. We have some positive outlooks, obviously, still. Obviously things to correct. But, what would it take, man? What would it take to, someone to figure out? Because we've had 4 coaches over the last year and a half, close to 2 years now, and we haven't been able to figure out and just dominate. Like, I want to dominate like America did those 2 seasons and just demolish teams on the field just because they're that much better. Either be a well coach or strictly talent. And I think that at times we had both, right? Siboldi was a great coach. and he proved it with an immediate championship with his leadership and the offensive players that we had, and back-to-back finals appearances. And obviously, it didn't work out for him, and didn't work out for us, right? And so we had to start over with Paunovic, but ultimately, we got to figure it out because we're an important team. We're an important team to the league. We're an important team to, obviously our town and our state, and we got to continue to go beyond that and be the leaders at the forefront of winning titles.
We won't dominate in regular seasons with this front office and their very lackluster coaching hires. So I wouldn't get too ahead of yourself there with that idea. As much as we all want it to happen, let's be real. Their IQ for coaching talent not high.
I'll add to that I think the players are a problem as well. I'm not gonna go all freno de mano on you guys, but I feel like some of the leaders do like to pace themselves. I think they like to say, hey, I think they get a feel for how they're feeling collectively, like too tired, or we might get some injuries, and they just kind of dial it back. I just get, from the years of watching them, that's the impression I get. And then when crunch time comes around, they dial it back up.
And they're all sitting at the table together at lunches. That they room with each other, so they have separate conversations. Outside of the team conversations that happen to motivate themselves. So I think you're right. And ultimately, though, my addition to that is que alguien los tumbe, right? No nadie que los tumbe.
No. And that's why I think we might end up having a season or two like that where we dominate, but it'll be after this generation of leaders goes away. Because I think they're not worried about finishing at the top of the standings. They're not worried about, going undefeated and breaking all these records. What they want is turning it on for Liguilla so they can win. They just want the rings. That's all they care about. And honestly, I don't blame them.
They're tough, right?
For example, let's say we finish with 28 points this season, dude, and we're like, oh man, what an underperformance. And then they turn it on in Liguilla and they win the title, dude. I'm not mad at the end of the season,
No, absolutely not. All these conversations would have been null.
Yeah. We'll go back and watch some of these podcasts and be like, hey, yeah,
and then hype it up all over again and be like, we're gonna dominate. And here we are, same conversations every dang season. We criticize, and in a quick turn of events, we go from repechaje or playing now, what they call it, to fighting for a championship.
This passion that we have in our podcast, this is the same passion that we share with all Tigres fans, listening, not listening, down in Monterrey or in the States. This is the reason why our stadium still is full versus other teams.
Ratings.
Yeah, we are a conversation. You got me fired up.
When you're big, you're big.
You got me fired up talking about Chicha Sanchez, bro. No mames.
I thought Arnoldo was going to pull out a Mario Castillejos on us, bro. ¿Quién eres tú? Aficionado de dos cervezas.
All right, let me fire you up again. On the last point that Edgar has on the outline, your pronostico for the next 3 games that are against small teams. Going 4 points out of 9. So we're losing 1. Let you figure it out.
Yeah, I can tell you which one it is.
Puebla.
The Mazatlan. Bucetich has our number.
Bucetich.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah, that's definitely a trap game right there.
I said 7 out of 9 when I responded to Miguel Angel Garza, the parody account, and my scenario is beating Puebla, beating Rayados, and tying against Mazatlan. But I can see that happening, but we'll see.
We have to beat Rayados.
I mean, we have to. That's for sure.
I don't just want to beat Rayados this season, bro. I want a big win, dude.
I want to stop them, dude.
They're due up because of that new coach that's not working out for them, bro.
And their roster,
get them to fire another coach on our account.
Bro, I watched the game and I fell asleep to it this past Saturday against Chivas. And the one thing that like was in my mind the entire time, I was like, you guys talked about Victor Guzman being the next Rafa Marquez, and he played Corcho Rodriguez in the center back position. And Marin, who came in for the La Hormiga, who they're calling for the Chivas offensive player who got hurt, their forward, tore him up by just a quick move, and he was lost. And I was like, I was loving it. But I don't mind the tie against them. If we get, them in the playoffs and really, make them bleed where it hurts. I've kind of lost, and maybe that's something that we can discuss when we have the week of the Clásico, but I've kind of lost the intensity and the passion for that rivalry. I do obviously want to beat them, but I mentioned it when I got interviewed with Rubik on Solo Tigres, is like until those guys win more titles and like it's meaningful, like I don't matter. It doesn't matter to me so much what we do in the regular season against them.
To answer this question, if we're not sending the children, somebody needs to get fired. Because like why would any senior player be going to that game? Like literally send the U23s. Bisuto should be playing all 90 minutes of that game.
Yeah. And honestly, I assume that's what's going to happen with Mr. Rotaciones. That's probably where we're going to see Samir.
Yeah, somebody who was it you that tweeted like somebody like focused on the team picture and it was Tercero and Xavier next to each other. So he was like the starting center back for the Rayados game.
No, listen, bro, listen. You know what that line is going to be? It's going to be Felipao in goal. It's going to be Osvi. It's going to be Samir. It's going to
Rafa
be
Guerrero.
Rafa Guerrero got injured, bro.
It'll be Tercero at right back.
Loss.
It'll be Fierro and Bisuto in the midfield. No, I'm not even Chewy, bro. It's gonna be.
He will.
It's gonna be Tercero.
No, Tercero starts at center back.
No. Purata's gonna start at center back, and Tercero's gonna play right back.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
okay.
Oh my God, that's nasty. That's nasty.
See?
Bro, whoever guys, $70 for that ticket.
Bisuto and Fierro, right?
Bisuto and Fierro, okay, and then you're gonna play Chicha. That's when you're gonna play Chicha.
Yeah.
When the minutes don't count.
That's the plug-in.
Seriously. And then Lainez and I'd play Lainez that game. Ibanez.
Vigon?
And Vigon. There we go. Vigon start.
Attacking mid.
Ibanez, Lou, you're gonna get to see Ibanez, man.
Nah, come on, Dennis. Ibanez is gonna be at Feyenoord by then, bro.
Bro, how did David Molina has like he follows the most like exotic accounts on social media, bro. He has like the strangest rumors.
He got it. Posted
You can tell those are Facebook posts, bro.
Yeah, guys, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, somebody, one of our colleagues, suggested via
one of our contributors.
one of our friends suggested that via post that he saw on social media that Tanque Ibanez was the next replacement for Santi Jimenez at Feyenoord. I couldn't believe it. I was like, David, stop following me for this stuff. Shout out to you, David. I really enjoy your messages on game days.
I don't, David. Shut it down, bro. Cierra la cuenta. Him and what's his name from Houston? Alvaro. What's his name? Yeah, Alvaro from Houston. Shut it down, bro.
Alvaro.
Bro, I don't think Alvaro ever watches our podcast because if not, he would keep up with what we talk about. He's always late to everything we're talking about. But he is the VAR. He's the VAR guy. He's got to review everything.
He is. We should have him as a referee insider one day, bro.
I gotta bring him on. But anyways, last part of the pod, guys. We've been on here for too long. It's been a really long episode. I know Edgar's ready to go to bed. My man staying up. He's fighting for life to stay awake with us.
From the vault.
From the vault moment. Closing out. From the vault. We talked about certified legend Guido Pizarro surpassing Hugo Ayala to become the second player with most club appearances, only behind Nahuel Guzman. Who do you think is gonna be that number one guy? Nahuel still have him?
Yeah, I think Nahuel is gonna take it for sure.
He's 3 games behind, brother.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys. I think because of his age, I highly It's a very high probability that Pizarro will outlast Nahuel at Tigres. Like Nahuel is going to leave first. I think
That's an
so.
interesting take.
Possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, and it would make sense, right, with Tapia coming on board. Like, I don't think you're as urgent to like forcibly make Nahuel stay as you probably were maybe a year and a half ago.
If we buy Tapia, though, he's on loan.
Hot take: start Tapia on Saturday.
Hot take.
Extremely hot. The other one is September 22nd, 2007. Tigres 1 versus Monterrey 0. Goal by Sebastián Loco Abreu. He became one of the, I think he was the first, actually. The first, maybe
Foreigner.
not the foreigner, first foreigner. I was going to say because, was it Abuelo Cruz was the one that scored for both?
I'm not sure. Mexican side. I think there was maybe even before Abuela Cruz, there was probably somebody else like Alacran Jimenez or somebody from way back when that also did it.
I feel like El Abuelo Cruz makes sense in my head, but
Yeah.
we have to, don't quote us on that one. We'll have to check back. But thanks for that clarification. Sebastián Loco Abreu was the first foreigner to score in both Clásico Regios
For both teams.
for both teams.
That's interesting. Yeah, to score
Yeah.
for both teams.
Because Lagata Fernandez did that. Aldo de Nigris did that. Who else? I probably look. Did Rolly Zarate do
No, I don't think so, man.
that? Really?
El homie Castillo. Not bad,
Anyways.
yeah.
Hey, isn't Loco Abreu still playing?
No, he
I thought it
retired
said
finally. Oh, no, he's not. He was recently though. I think when I mean recent, like within the last 2 years, he was the player coach.
Yeah.
My man.
I thought I saw a post about that like a month ago.
Maybe
Was it
you're right.
2
bro.
years ago?
I could be wrong. I've made an effort now to stay up to date with global soccer. I forcefully made myself watch the Premier League on Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going to be more knowledgeable moving forward of global soccer. And so I really hated the reference that you suggested of the formation change, Dennis, with Man City, because they struggled against Newcastle. And you know who I was really impressed with.
Well, you know why they struggle is because they don't have Roger and KDB. So I mean,
Yes,
what else
correct.
can we expect?
But who I was really impressed with was Ipswich Town. God, they were balling
Dude,
out
they're good
in that
They're
match.
good. They have a
Yeah,
good coach, bro. That's what it is. They have a
yeah.
good coach.
I was thinking Caden Clark, not Caden Clark, but his last name was Caden Clark's an American player. Clark, number 47 for Ipswich Town, was fantastic on the field. And the quick
So
transition.
that's where
they
Marcelo
tore
was
him.
going to go, huh?
Yeah, I mean, still might. You never know. I have a
Like
from the
David
vault
Molina.
moment from last season. On this day, a year ago today, we beat Mazapan 3-2 on the road. Can anybody guess the goal scorers?
Luis Quiñones.
Nope. I don't think. Oh, he did play this game. but
Oh,
he didn't start.
Linus.
Linus, that was his crazy goal, his worldie. Okay.
Which
Gignac.
one? Describe it to me.
Nope, not Gignac. Gignac did
Describe
not
me
start.
Linus' goal.
It was like he like ran in and just kind of like hit it like on the run. Like I can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
It wasn't like
can't
I think
a,
it was his first goal at Tigres.
yeah,
maybe.
it was. Yeah, it was a banger. It was definitely a banger.
where his body did most of the work as opposed to him actually intentionally kicking it and making an
come
effort
on.
with his leg, and the body went because he was forcefully running with so much inertia. I think I know what you're talking about. It was
Yeah.
more by inertia and physical aspect than his actual technical ability. I do remember now.
Okay, so you got Linus missing two other goal scorers.
Nico
scored, and the
Yeah.
other
Samir.
no, but
No?
Samir did start this game.
I want to take a guess and be
With Reyes.
Vigon.
No, Vigon, he did start this game, but he did not score.
Who was it?
Yikes!
It was Otiel.
Ooh, I don't remember that one.
Don't
You know who
remember.
also scored? Paco Venegas, like right before the end of the
Oh,
game.
that's true. And he didn't celebrate.
Uh-huh.
He didn't celebrate. Yep, I remember that.
Starters in this game also included Ordóñez, Fulgencio, and Chuy Garza.
Dude, what happened to Ordóñez, bro? That dude was actually looking all right.
We'll see him in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Maybe. He
We'll
makes the
find out in San Antonio.
You ain't lying, bro.
I
Loroña
think
was
it's-
on the bench.
I think his problem was, Lou, that he was an offensive player, but he wasn't like that good offensively where you can be like, oh, yeah, you can be the left winger for Tigres. And so he had to play left back. And so you're not going to, like, he's not close to like benching Angulo. And so he
Yeah.
lost the spot. And so most likely he's not even getting looked at.
Yeah.
True.
But I
Good,
mean, then you bring in a guy as a backup like Osby, dude. When you can just let the kid play there as a backup.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just decisions that I don't make that don't make much sense to me from the front office. Where, dude, if you're gonna bring a guy like Osby,
Torrado.
yeah, it's just I think there's a lot of Pacto de Caballero stuff going on back there. Like you scratch my back, I scratch yours, that kind of thing.
I was excited for it though, because in theory he was going to supply something different than Angulo, and I don't consider Angulo an elite left back. He's not even top 3 in Mexico. So I really thought, yeah, because we suck, dude. Like, come on, like you can play anybody back there. They got Jorge Sanchez going back because he's playing center back now for Cruz Azul. Mexico is dunzo with national team players, guys.
Yeah, right now it's the
Yeah,
lowest
but I
level.
was really excited for Osvaldo Rodriguez. I really thought he was going to contribute, and I don't think he's even going to play very much unless it's in
Well, I
San
mean,
Antonio.
Rafa Guerrero, bro. Rafa Guerrero is another guy. Why bring in that kid when you got kids in the cantera that can do it?
Yeah.
I mean,
And now he's gonna be out for
it
months.
just doesn't make much sense to me.
Agreed. All right, fellas. That's a great episode. Got my little heart rate up late at night. I appreciate it, Alfred. Ultimately, great episode. Really enjoyed it. It was very energetic. Edgar, thank you for putting the outline together. Great kit, by the way.
Thank you.
Dennis, thanks for handling the music production and introductories, and unofficial sponsor. But yeah, thanks everybody who tuned in. Thanks for keeping up with us for this long and listening to our wild, erratic takes about Tigres. We love to do it. We follow us. We're on YouTube going live and obviously on X, as you can see. Our accounts are listed for you guys to follow us on Twitter. If you guys want to be on the podcast or know anybody that wants to come on the podcast and discuss several things or a specific game or, Tigres Femenil, obviously the space is open for you guys. We really enjoy doing this, and some of us can take the night off here and there. So it's not a big deal if you're willing to come on. And obviously we want to get to know people, right? And see and hear your story in regards to the most passionate team in Mexico. And with that note, I didn't talk about it on Friday because I truly forgot. I had it in my head, but I didn't think about it because, again, we were talking about Chicha Sanchez before the Leon game. How cool is it that, we were all, for the most part, giving a shout out, at least 4 of us on the broadcast for the Estrella TV, which has now been a recurrence, right? Like it's not the first time. Really interesting to hear, obviously, the conversations of what we're doing, online with the Tigres English community, and looking to raise that awareness and for our brand here in the States. And I think it's really awesome. And I think Peyo has identified us, maybe not so much like Lou Popovich over here, because he's always engaged and interacting with Lou, but I know he definitely knows Double O Nation, my account now, Tigres Takes, and obviously Lou. So really cool that's moving forward, and hopefully it brings in more people to watch Tigres here from the States and adds to the bank account that we want to expand, so we don't end up playing players that shouldn't play at Tigres.
Rest in peace to Kim
Anything else?
Rest in peace,
Bro.
Pete Rose, bro.
Rest in peace, Pete Rose. Rest in peace, Chris Christopherson.
Pete Rose.
Somebody said earlier they all die in threes, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, Rest in peace to those guys.
I have an interesting thing, and I'll end it to say about Mutombo. Dikembe Mutombo won me an academic decathlon performance my senior year of high school. I took this class because I knew it was going to be an easy class. The teacher that was teaching the class, I had taken them for world history and U.S. history, and so I knew it was going to be an easy class. It was a small class. There was 18 of us, and so the requirements was that we were going to have to perform at the district decathlon for academics. And so my partner and I was really, really good friends with. Her name is Ismar, that I grew up with. So we prepared for different essays of different things and topics surrounding world history and just different essay topics. Anyways, I get to the competition, and one of the essays was about the impact of humanitarian efforts in Africa and how that it would impact the world and the relations with the United States. And at the time, Dikembe Mutombo was playing for the Rockets, and my favorite player of all time growing up in basketball has been Tracy McGrady. And so Tracy McGrady and Dikembe Mutombo were doing a lot of humanitarian work. So I wrote about that. It got me a place in the academic decathlon. And, for the most part, I winged it, but I had, a really good idea of what they were doing because I kept up with the Rockets so much, and I love basketball. And so shout out to Dikembe Mutombo, rest in peace. Great person overall and what he did off the court, but really fun guy, especially with the get out of here, not in my house. All right, everybody. Again, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
See y'all next week. Bye-bye.